Hi everyone, I'm Olivia Collins. Sign it or lose everything, Eleanor said, sliding the transfer papers across the table with a venomous smirk. Behind her, Rebecca casually flipped through a stack of cash, her painted nails skimming over the inheritance my grandfather had left me, like it was already hers. I never imagined I'd end up here, cornered in my own home, watching my mother-in-law and sister-in-law scheme to rob me blind. The inheritance wasn't theirs to touch. It wasn't even Thomas's. It was mine. Grandpa Jack left it to me, his little owl, because he trusted me to protect what he had built after my parents died. Eleanor's voice sliced through my spiraling thoughts. This can go smoothly, Olivia, or it can go very badly, for you and Thomas. Her manicured fingers tapped a rhythm on the polished mahogany, a sound that had grated on my nerves for years. I forced myself to keep calm, my eyes flicking to the documents. This wasn't just $2.8 million. It was my future, my independence. I don't understand, I said evenly. Why do you think you're entitled to this? Grandpa Jack left this to me. Rebecca scoffed, her laugh sharp and cruel. Oh, don't play innocent. You probably manipulated that poor old man into rewriting his will. Everyone knows he wasn't in his right mind at the end. My chest tightened with fury. Don't you dare. Grandpa Jack was sharper than anyone I've ever known. Right up to the day he passed. You don't get to rewrite history just because it suits you. I turned to Eleanor, my voice firm. And you met him. You know exactly the kind of man he was. Eleanor waved her hand dismissively. Regardless, Rebecca's in the middle of a very messy divorce. She needs security. As family, you should be willing to help. Family. The word left a bitter taste in my mouth. In Eleanor's eyes, I'd never been part of their family. Not really. I was the kindergarten teacher from the wrong side of town, the woman who'd stolen her precious Thomas away from the society debutantes she deemed worthy. Where's Thomas? I asked, the realization hitting me that he wasn't here. Does he know about this? Eleanor's predatory smile widened. Thomas understands that family comes first. He agrees this is the best course of action for everyone involved. The words hit like a punch to the gut. He agreed? Without even telling me? I had such high hopes for you, Olivia. Eleanor sighed, feigning disappointment. But your refusal to support Rebecca in her time of need proves what I've always suspected. You don't belong in this family. Rebecca stepped closer, her hands gripping my shoulders with unsettling force. Sign the papers. Live. Don't make this uglier than it needs to be. I stared at the documents, Eleanor's smug face blurring as anger and betrayal clouded my vision. This wasn't just greed. It was control. Eleanor had spent years trying to undermine me, and now she thought she found the perfect way to force me out for good. And if I refuse? I asked quietly, already anticipating the answer. Eleanor leaned in, her voice a conspiratorial whisper. Then I'll have no choice but to share some interesting discoveries about your teaching credentials. It would be a shame if the school board received an anonymous tip. My head snapped up. That's a lie. My credentials are flawless. I earned every inch of my degree. Perhaps, she replied, her tone syrupy sweet. But in the digital age, it's so easy to create discrepancies. And with my connections, I doubt you get the benefit of the doubt. Rebecca resumed her humming, counting cash with theatrical glee. Think of it as an investment in family harmony, she chirped. I clenched my fists under the table, my grandfather's voice echoing in my memory. Always stand your ground, little owl. Don't let anyone push you around. But this wasn't just about standing my ground. I needed to be smart, strategic. They'd always underestimated me, the quiet kindergarten teacher who didn't belong in their world of old money and power plays. My fingers curled around the pen, steadying as an idea began to form. Let them think they'd won. Slowly, deliberately, I signed the papers. Eleanor's triumph was palpable as she snatched them back. See? That wasn't so hard, was it? She cooed. Rebecca beamed, clutching the briefcase full of cash like it was a prize. They left without a backward glance, too busy celebrating to notice the faint glint of metal at my collar. My grandmother's brooch, worn to every family meeting, hadn't just been an heirloom. It was a recording device. Eleanor and Rebecca thought this was the end of the game. They had no idea it was only the beginning. The next few weeks were a masterclass in patience. While Eleanor and Rebecca paraded their victory like peacocks, I perfected my role as the docile, defeated daughter-in-law. But beneath the surface, I was methodically setting the pieces into place. I can't believe how calm you are about this, Lisa, my best friend, said as we sat in our favorite cafe. Her voice carried a mix of outrage and disbelief. They stole your inheritance, Olivia. $2.8 million. I stirred my latte slowly, watching the foam swirl. Remember when I told you my grandfather was just a simple accountant? I said, my voice quiet but firm. That wasn't entirely true. Before his retirement, Grandpa Jack had been a forensic accountant for the FBI, specializing in exposing financial fraud. Growing up, he made it our special game. While other kids played tag, I learned to follow money trails, uncover irregularities, and piece together hidden schemes. The money was never the end game, Lisa, I explained, setting my cup down. It was the bait. I opened my laptop, revealing a digital vault of evidence I'd been compiling for years. Every suspicious transaction from Eleanor's real estate firm, every shady property deal, every blatant instance of tax evasion, all meticulously documented. The recording of them threatening me was just the final piece. I continued, scrolling through files. But this is the real weapon. The next day, I visited James Morton, one of Grandpa Jack's old colleagues and now a senior partner at Sterling and Morton Law. He smiled as I walked in, pulling a thick envelope from his desk drawer. Your grandfather asked me to hold on to these until you needed them, he said, sliding it across the polished wood. Inside was the crown jewel of evidence, a detailed web of Eleanor's most intricate schemes. Shell companies, money laundering, and fraudulent real estate transactions, painstakingly documented by my grandfather over the years. There's one more thing, James said, handing me a USB drive. He left this too. Said you'd know what to do when the time came. That evening, Thomas finally broached the subject of my attitude since signing over the inheritance. Mom says you've been cold at family dinners, he started, his tone accusatory. Can't you just appreciate that we're helping Rebecca through a tough time? I studied my husband carefully, feeling a pang of pity more than anger. Tell me, Thomas, I asked, my voice steady. Did you even hesitate when your mother suggested taking my inheritance? Did you think about me at all? His silence said everything. The next morning, I booked a meeting with Eleanor's fiercest rival, Victoria Kane. For years, Victoria had tried to expose Eleanor's fraudulent dealings, but she never had enough evidence. Victoria's eyes widened as she reviewed the files I brought. This is staggering, she breathed. With this, we cold. Destroy her, I finished, cutting her off. But that's not the goal. Not yet. I outlined my plan, watching as Victoria's smile grew with each detail. By the time I left her office, we had a pact that would change the game entirely. Sunday dinner arrived and Eleanor was in rare form. She gloated about Rebecca's new car, bought with my inheritance, as Rebecca grinned smugly. Oh, Olivia, Rebecca said sweetly, I thought you'd like to know. I'm using some of the money to open a preschool. Isn't that perfect? We'll practically be colleagues. The irony nearly made me laugh. They still saw me as the naive kindergarten teacher, blissfully unaware of their games. They had no idea what tomorrow would bring. As I helped Eleanor with the dishes, playing the dutiful daughter-in-law one final time, she patted my head condescendingly. See, Olivia? This is what family harmony looks like. Things are so much better when you cooperate. I dried the last plate and smiled faintly, my voice even. You're right, Eleanor. Everything is exactly as it should be. Walking home that night, I checked my phone. A message from Victoria awaited. Everything's ready. Operation Karma starts tomorrow. I thought of Grandpa Jack, his words echoing in my mind. The best revenge is letting them think they've won, until the moment they realize they've lost everything. Tomorrow, Eleanor and Rebecca would finally learn who I truly was, not just a kindergarten teacher, but my grandfather's there in every way that mattered. I typed one word back to Victoria. Begin. Monday morning arrived with thunderclouds, an omen, perhaps, for what was about to unfold. I sat in Victoria Kane's office, eyes fixed on the screens as our carefully laid plan came to life. Channel 7 news breaking story. Major fraud investigation launched into Collins' real estate empire. The anchor announced. Anonymous sources have provided evidence of extensive money laundering and tax evasion. My phone lit up with notifications. Thomas's name appeared 6 times in a row. I ignored every call. They've arrived, Victoria said, nodding toward the security feed. Eleanor and Rebecca stormed into the Collins real estate lobby, their faces pale and frantic. Minutes later, every local news station aired the recording of their inheritance extortion, blasting their threats for the world to hear. "This is only the beginning," I murmured, my grandfather's voice echoing in my mind. "Time for phase 2. Victoria picked up her phone and made the call we'd rehearsed for weeks. Within hours, her company announced a hostile takeover of Collins real estate, fortified by the mountain of evidence we provided. Stock prices plummeted, dragging Eleanor's carefully curated empire down with them. Eleanor's call came exactly when I expected. "What have you done?" she screeched, her voice shrill with desperation. "You vindictive little—" "Me?" I interrupted, calm and measured. "I'm just a kindergarten teacher, remember? But you might want to ask Rebecca about those shell companies she's been managing for you, the ones in her name." The line went silent. Then, barely a whisper, "How did you?" "My grandfather taught me well," I said, my tone like steel. "And as for the inheritance you coerced me into signing over, it's being returned with interest. Fraud under duress doesn't hold up well in court, especially with recorded proof." Rebecca's meltdown on social media was almost theatrical. "You ruined everything," she raged in a post. "We were trying to help you fit in." I replied with a single line, "Karma sends her regards." By evening, Thomas came storming into the house, waving papers. "The company's gone. Mom's being investigated." "What did you do?" I handed him a manila envelope. "Divorce papers." I figured while the lawyers were already busy, we might as well make it official. His face crumpled. But I love you." "No, Thomas," I said, my voice cold. "You loved having someone your mother could control. That person doesn't exist anymore." The aftermath was swift. Eleanor's empire crumbled in weeks. Rebecca's divorce settlement was reopened when her fraudulent finances were exposed. And Thomas? He learned too late what it meant to bet on the wrong team. 6 months later, I stood in my new office at Kane and Collins Real Estate. Victoria's insistence on the partnership had been non-negotiable. Above my desk hung 2 frames, my grandfather's photo and my teaching degree. I still kept my kindergarten job. Some battles were worth fighting, but so were the simple joys. "Miss Collins," my assistant called from the door. "Your 2 o'clock is here." "Something about discussing terms?" Eleanor stepped in, unrecognizable in her plain attire. No designer suits, no sparkling diamonds, just a woman stripped of the power she once wielded. "Olivia," she began, her voice trembling, "I've come to beg." "No need," I interrupted, folding my hands on the desk. "The terms are simple. Admit everything, return every penny you stole, and I'll ensure you avoid jail time." I smiled, the same smile she once used to dismiss me. "After all, isn't that what family does? Help each other." She flinched, hearing her own words turned back on her. Later that evening, I placed a bouquet of flowers on my grandfather's grave. The cool breeze carried a sense of closure. "You were right, Grandpa," I whispered. "Sometimes karma needs a little help." As I stood, my phone buzzed with a message from Victoria, another merger opportunity. My new life called, full of potential and promise. Eleanor and Rebecca thought they were stealing an inheritance. Instead, they gave me something far more valuable. The push to become the person I was always meant to be. They say karma finds everyone eventually, but sometimes she needs someone to open the door and show her where to strike.